American control and domination of the United Nations affects everyone. You know, the whole U.S. economy has been run for decades, and everyone knows it. It's acknowledged even by their own politicians. The first person who even said it was the American president, Eisenhower, back in the 50s, before he left office, that the U.S. economy has been run for decades according to the military industrial complex, which means that it thrives on war and conflict. War and conflict is the driver of their economy, or anyway, it has been the driver of their economy ever since the UN was established. And America has therefore only used the UN precisely for this purpose, to spread violence and conflict and war all around the world. Do you think that getting the U.S. out of the UN would not result in a dramatic decrease in the total number of global conflicts? Of course it would. Because America uses the United Nations to start and keep conflicts going, just like in Gaza, just like in Palestine. If the U.S. hadn't been part of the UN, hadn't been especially on the Security Council of the UN, there would have been peace in Palestine before I was even born. There'd be peace today. The Israelis would have had to abandon Zionism a long time ago if the U.S. didn't immunize them from accountability at the United Nations, if they didn't use the United Nations to silence the whole world over the conflict in Palestine. I mean, look, the U.S. has violated the principles of the UN Charter more times than the number of years that the United Nations has existed as an organization. And they started right away. They started the United Nations in 1945. In 1950, 5 years later, the Americans massacred hundreds of Korean refugees and committed war crimes throughout the Korean War. No accountability. Vietnam, the My Lai massacre, Agent Orange, napalm, no accountability. Carpet bombing of Laos and Cambodia, no accountability. The first Gulf War, that's the first Gulf War, not the one that you know about, not the post 9/11 one, but in 1991 when they attacked Iraq over Kuwait. Then there was the invasion of Iraq, the shock and awe campaign, massive civilian casualties. Abu Ghraib, the Haditha massacre, dropping white phosphorus on civilians in Fallujah, no accountability. The invasion of Afghanistan, torture at Bagram Air Base, drone strikes, countless massacres of civilians in Afghanistan, no accountability. The CIA torture and rendition program, no accountability. You know, that's just a short list of everything they've done. We're not even talking about their covert operations, coups and assassinations, Patrice Lumumba, the Bay of Pigs, Qasem Soleimani, on and on. It's endless. Endless interventions, endless interference, subversion, destabilization across Africa, Latin America, Asia, the Middle East, all with no accountability. All of this has an impact on the global stage. Every single crime that America has committed has ramifications. It has reverberations. Every crime changes the whole global landscape in terms of our belief collectively as human beings, our beliefs and our aspirations and our hope and our expectations about justice, about peace, about fairness, about the rule of law, about sovereignty, about the morality of nations and what nations can be and what they can get away with and what they can't get away with. The U.S. use and abuse of the United Nations has been an absolute catastrophe for the entire planet. The whole point here is that we can do something about it. It's in the charter that they signed, that they wrote. It's in the charter that they can be removed. They never thought that they would be in a position where the other nations of the world could actually expel them. But the power dynamics in the world have changed dramatically over the last, even just over the last 3, 4, 5 years, much less over the last 10. The world isn't what it was in 1994, in 2024. It's a very different world now, with BRICS and the global south rising, with the center of gravity of the global economy pivoting to the global south. It's a very different world now. And we believe, that all of us on the team and everyone who signed that petition believe absolutely that Article 6 can and will be invoked. And finally, the U.S. will be removed from the United Nations, and potentially the United Nations can actually begin to operate according to its stated purpose, its official purpose, rather than the way it has been used ever since 1945.